Hello, can you hear me?
Afternoon,
Yes, sir.
sir.
Okay,
Good
that's
afternoon,
good.
sir.
By the way, next week, Friday, will be your first exam. Then your midterm, oh, yeah, that will be your first exam. That would be your, first exam. Then the week after next, around Wednesday, we'll have the midterm. Okay? Okay, kaya? Kaya. I'll finish chapter until ABC by next week. Okay? I'll finish today chapter 2 so that by Monday we'll go to chapter 3 already. Okay? By the way, I'll make links for you to upload sa inyong mga assignments. Di ba, napatay assignments for chapter 2, I believe. So, I'll provide a link in Canva so that you can upload. And I might give another activity for job order so at least you can do more exercises. Okay, so at least if daghan mo exercise, daghan mo pundo na points, di ba? Anyway, so to continue with our lesson class, or before I move on to my lesson, may I ask Gaisano to lead the prayer?
Let us put ourselves in the holy presence of God. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Please help us understand the lesson today. Amen.
Okay, thank you for that prayer, Gaisano. So we stop our discussion actually on the methods or inventory costing methods. So again, what are those inventory costing methods, Gani class? Sorry. I'll have to manage I'll have to record this one, right? For others na wala.
Yes.
Am I correct? Okay. I'll just provide a link through GC. Okay. So this is already recorded class. So let's start. So for inventory costing method, again, you have three methods. So one method is specific identification method. The other one is average method or average cost method. And the last one is first in, first out method. So what's the difference between a specific identification method, average costing method, and first in, first out? Under a specific identification method class, normally you are to specifically identify each product and cost each product. So let us say na kining ball pen, kining pagpalit na ako ball pen na 001 ang code, kay nag-worth niya siya og 3 pesos. Another ball pen under the code of 002, nag-worth siya og 4 pesos. So each item, again each item, it could be the same item but different codes. So specifically identify nimo ang iyahang price. Nako ha? So best example for specific identification would be jewelries, considering na each jewelry has its own price. Okay? So mao na. That's one. Another one is the average costing method. So under an average costing method class, we normally use the formula cost of goods available for sale divided by number of units available for sale. So with that, you have already the average cost to be multiplied for those na nabaligya nimo. Okay, so for example, cost of goods available for sale is around 500,000. whereas number of units available for sale is 1 million units. So definitely how much would be the average cost? It could be 0.5 pesos, right? So in that sense, automatically mo na imuhang average cost method. So total number of total cost or cost of goods available for sale divide by number of units available for sale. Okay? Now, under this average costing method, you have this so-called moving average method. So meaning, unlike sa katong simple na average that it will be constant ang iyang average cost, in the moving average costing method, there is a different cost or average cost if there is another or if there's a purchase transaction that has a different price. Okay, so the always if there's a purchase which has a different price, the average cost will move. Will move in the sense that it could increase the cost or decrease the cost. So to illustrate that one class, okay, let me share my screen. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So to illustrate that one class, so can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So let us say that you have here a beginning inventory of 1,000 and had a per unit cost of 50. Okay, 50. So how much would that be? 50 times 1,000, so you get 50,000. Now, let us say now you have purchases. Okay, so purchases. Na kay purchases of, let us say, another 1,000. However, the price now is 60. Okay, so how much now will be the purchases for the purchases? So that's 60,000. Okay, so what will be now your total? Okay, total is 2,000. Total cost is 110,000. But average now is 110,000 divided by 2,000. That will give you 55 pesos. Nako? Now, let us say na nagbaligya ko, sold. How much did we sold? 500. Okay. How much unit cost will we use for the 500? Of course, the 55. Okay. Sorry. So this should be negative. This one is times 55. So definitely total now would be, or balance is 35. 35. No, 35. Sorry. Saya pa akong pag-add. Okay, 1.5. And balance for this one should be 82,500. Okay. Pila cost 55. Now, let us say na I purchases. Okay, another purchases 1,000. And the price now is 40. So times 40, so that's 40,000. So you'll have a total or balance 25. Total cost of goods available for sale is 112. The unit cost now is 49. Okay, so from here, okay, now na ang current This one is the reviews. So, di ba, if you could observe, there is already maglahi ang average cost every time na mag-purchase siya. Do you follow? So from 55, nahimo siyang 49, and so on and so forth if there's a purchase. So basically what happens here, there's a movement on the average cost. That's why we call it as an average costing method. Do you follow?
Yes.
Do you follow? Nakasunod, wala.
Nakasunod.
Naglibog, wala. Ay nako, naglibog ha. Now, first in, first out. So what happens in a first in, first out? Desay o nako. Unsay una nimo gipagawas, dapat maoy imo if unsay dapat ipasulod, dapat maoy ipagawas. Ha? Mao gyud na always. So, let us say, let us use the same example. So, you have here purchases. Yeah. So 50 and 60. Now, we sold. Okay, so we sold. Pila ang gisold? 500. Now, if nag-sold tag 500, asa man nato kuhaon ang price? Kung saan may una gisulod, ang kining beginning balance na 1,000. So therefore, since siya may gipasulod una, dapat siya ang ipagawas una. Therefore, ang imong unit price there to be used is 50. Nakuha, class? 25. Next, there was a purchase, another purchase of 1,000. Am I correct? Yeah, 1,000. So that's 40. And how much would that be? 40,000. Now let us say in this problem or in this illustration, nag-sold ta og 2,000. Okay. So unsa may gamiton sa 2,000? Okay. First is pila na bilhin sa 1,000. Class?
500.
Ikuhaan man na to siya 500 units.
500.
Okay, very good. So 500 times 50. Pili ko nga 1,500. Right? So asa man nakaon na to ang 1,500 na kulang from the 2,000? From the purchases which is 60, right? And 1,500 may kailangan niya. 1,000 naman siya. So ma-fully satisfy ang 1,000 times 60. Next, napay kuwangan. Kuwangan pa siya 500. Asa man na to kuhaan ang 500 na usa? At which price should we use?
40.
Sa 40.
Okay, 40. So definitely, ano man eh? So 10,000, 105,000. So yeah, for the sold. So ang kato gigamit nimo is 50 na price, 60 and 40. Okay? Ang gigamit na to ano. Okay? So kana lang. Sorry. Ano ba ni? Okay. Times -1. Okay, so 105,000. Okay, so that's first in, first out. Ako ha?
Yes, sir.
Any questions? Any questions? Anyway, now, so accounting for labor. Again, if definitely if naano tayo, if you have already the for the payroll, for the journal entry for this one, for any direct labor, normally mag-conjugate ka, debit payroll, credit accrued payroll, or cash. And then in order for us to transfer the inventories, we could actually have debit WIP inventory for that specific amount, credit payroll. Okay? And for that indirect labor, so we normally use factory overhead control, debit and credit payroll for the indirect labor cost. Now, in that sense, so considering that we have mentioned factory overhead control, so what is the difference, the I-class, between a factory overhead control and an applied factory overhead? So these are both account titles. And what is the importance of these account titles? So unsa man di I-class? Anyone? 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 Madungog ko? Hello? So what's the difference between factory overhead control and applied factory overhead? So the difference, class. Hello? Yes, Ibanez.
The difference between sa duha ka concepts, sir, is that the actual overhead is the amount of cost na gi-incurred, while ang applied overhead is the standard amount sa overhead applied to cost objects.
So basically, what you are saying now is that when we use the account title factory overhead control, these are the amounts indicated in that account title are actual cost. Okay, so basically actual indirect cost. Whereas under the account title na applied factory overhead, these are costs that are considered predetermined, meaning standard costs yan. Ako ha? So to simply put, if we are to use applied factory overhead, we are actually using your standard cost nimo, okay? Or we use your predetermined overhead rates. Unlike if we are to use your FOC or factory overhead control, we are actually using your actual cost. So, sir, how do we journalize? Okay, how do we incorporate these account titles in our entries? Okay, so simple lang. First, we use applied factory overhead in order to transfer that cost. Because what we normally use is normal costing. Okay, we cannot use actual costing because magpauwahi man gyud na si factory overhead control. So perminti ka mag-adjust sa mga entries, di ba? Sa unsa ka gamay. So it would be efficient and effective for you as accountants to adjust it only at the end of the term, okay? Or at the end of the calendar month or calendar year, if the case may be. So basically, we are to use now your applied factory overhead, and the total applied factory overhead will be at the end of the year will be closed, meaning imo siya i-close ngadto sa factory overhead control. So to illustrate ha, let us say na akay total indirect cost now 100,000. So first is na kay debit WIP, credit factory applied factory overhead 100,000. So at the end of the year, let us say na ako ay 104,000. Nako ha? So 104,000. Na variance, di ba? So na variance. So the variance now will be considered as part of your cost of goods sold, as the case may be. Kay there are times na i-part gapon siya sa factory overhead control, but normally i-part siya sa imong cost of goods sold if kana. So your entry now will be debit factory overhead control 100,000, 104,000, credit applied factory overhead 100,000, and credit cost of goods sold 4,000. Okay. And not lang. Any questions? Or if equal gani, so debit, applied factory overhead, credit, debit, applied factory overhead, debit, cost of goods sold, applied factory overhead, 100,000, debit, cost of goods sold, 4,000, credit, factory overhead control, which is 104,000. Sorry, nasayip ko. I was thinking na mix na ko kung mind. Okay, so that's how you journalize. Any questions? Hello?
None, sir.
Answer.
Okay, so in your book, you have here a discussion on forms and documents use. Kamo na bahala niya. So, kamo na bahala unsay material requisition form, employee timesheet, so then job order cost sheet. So, kamo na bahala na, ha? It's a matter of reading na lang. So, let's go to specific problems, okay? There was one who will, I believe, volunteer for exercise 2-7. May I ask that person to report? Is she or he around? Yes?
Me, sir.
Okay. Kindly share your screen.
Arabella, can you share the screen, please? Will I read the questions or then answer Dayo?
Yes, please.
Okay, so for number 1,
in job costing system, the cost object could be an individual unit or multiple units of a distinct product or service. So my answer is true, or T. For number 2, an electronic
By the way,
computer link.
excuse me, have you
Yes, sir.
submitted an index card?
Wala sir, kay that time kay kanang na absent ko sir, kay nauli ko sa province.
Ay,
Then,
by Monday, can you submit?
yes sir.
Or
I
else
have
I
it
can
ready na,
record
sir.
your scores today.
Okay sir. Sorry sir. Then for number 2, an electronic computer link between a company and its suppliers, which ensures that the ordered materials is transmitted quickly and accurately with minimum paperwork, is using electronic data interchange, or EDI technology. That's true. Number 3, in job costing, only direct costs are used to determine the cost of jobs. My answer is false. Number 4, okay, a job cost sheet is a source document, but individual items of the job cost sheet may also have a source document. True. Number 5, companies typically wait for accurate information regarding actual manufacturing overhead costs before pricing a job. False. Work in process account will be decreased if direct material is incurred. False. Work in process account tracks the cost of a particular job from start until they are completed. True. Indirect material that is requisitioned increase the work in process account. False. The ending balance of work in process account represents the total costs of all jobs that have not been completed yet. True. Number 10, when actual indirect costs exceed allocated indirect cost, overhead is over-applied. False. The overhead accounts are closed or zero at the end of each year. True. Number 12, when indirect labor is recorded for a job in process, the factory in process account is debited. False. When indirect labor is applied to job in process, the factory overhead control account is debited. True. Number 14, when manufacturing overhead is charged to a job, the work in process is debited. True. A barcode scanner cannot be used in recording the receipt of incoming materials. False. That's all, sir.
Okay, thank you. So can you take note of the answers? Actually, all of the answers are correct. Next problem would be cost flow analysis. So let's have exercise 2-6. I believe it will be answered by Bustamante.
Okay, sir.
Okay, can you share your screen and discuss your answers?
Ang tanan ang i-discuss, sir, from A to D.
Yes, please.
Okay, so 2-6A, number 1, we're looking for the cost of goods sold. So, if may makita na to sa exercise as a given, the finished goods, the account is credited. So, the account to balance it off is debited, which is the cost of goods sold. So, given naman na kuan 712,500 ang finished goods sa given, so the answer for the cost of goods sold would be 1,712,500 also. Okay, so for number 2, in solving this one, we use the modified formula for cost of goods sold because naa siya sa given, or ang mga needed info para sa cost of goods sold ay na needed na sa formula na cost of goods sold kinara sa given. So, i-modify siya. So, instead of beginning finished goods inventory plus goods of manufacturing minus ending finished goods inventory ang gamiton, Ang nahitabo kay nag-start ta with the cost of goods sold, and then plus the ending finished goods less beginning finished goods. Then we had, or we ang nakuha na to is 1,682,500. So for number 3, we're looking for the total manufacturing cost. So the problem is solved using a modified cost of goods manufactured na formula. But before that, nagkuha sa to ang applied overhead, which is, according sa given, which is 120% of the direct labor cost. So to get the overhead, we multiplied 225,000 times 1.2, so natay 270,000. And then, using na sa katong cost of goods manufactured, nag-modify na to, nagpangita ta sa direct materials. So cost of goods manufactured is 1,682,500 plus the ending work in process na 60,000. Then we subtracted the beginning work in process, which is 68,750, direct labor 225,000, and applied overhead na 270,000, which in the end, the direct materials used totaled to 1,178,750. Pero dili pa ni siya mao ang atong gipangita for number 3. To get the total manufacturing cost, we added the direct materials used, which is 1,178,750 plus direct labor 225,000, and then applied factory overhead nga 270. So ang total na manufacturing cost nato is 1,763,750. So for number 4, we're looking for the work in process na naa sa direct materials or lagi. So in order to do that, we simply added the beginning balance of direct materials inventory, which is 30,750, and then the ending balance of direct materials inventory, which is 10,250. So that would be 41,000. And then ato na pong gi-add ang purchases, which is 1,158,250, giving us a total of 1,178,750. No, technically nara siya diri ay makita ako siya diha. And then last number for 2-6A is the total direct material purchases. So in order to do that, we use a modified formula of the direct materials, which is katuganing direct beginning materials inventory plus purchases minus ending materials inventory. So kuan na siya kanang gi-shuffle ang slide ang formula. So para makuha na tong total direct materials purchases, we had the direct materials used, which is 1,178,750 plus the ending materials inventory na 10,250 minus the beginning materials inventory, which is 30,750. So the total direct materials purchases would be 1,158,250. Okay, moving on to 2-6 letter B. Number 6, we are looking for the predetermined factory overhead rate. So the formula for overhead rate is applied overhead divided by direct labor. So nara siya sa given, now applied overhead is 300,000 and then ang direct labor is 400,000. So we divided that. Dayon gi-multiply lang siya og 100 para mahimo siya whole number, since if we divide the two, kay kuan man siya, dili siya whole number ang magawas pa na siya sa decimal places. So multiplied by 100 is equals to 75%. Okay, so for number 7, ang gipangita is the direct materials used for both jobs. So first, taas-taas na process. For first thing we had to do is that we had to find, for job number 888, na siya direct labor of 30,000. So atong pangitaon iya is ang iyang overhead, which is 30,000 times 75% from kanina overhead rate, which is equal to 22,500. Yeah, for job number 899, naman siya applied overhead of 24,000. So, bali siya sa job 888 na gipangita kaganina. So, we divided 24,000 by 75%. So, nana siya 32,000. Now, ati siya. So sa ending balance, gipangita siya by using the formula which is beginning inventory plus manufacturing plus costs. Manufacturing costs, I mean, and then subtracted by the cost of goods manufactured. So manatang na siya 195,500. Now, from the ending balance, we subtracted the conversion costs of both jobs 888 and 899 to the ending balance. So ang kaning conversion cost is kani siya labor plus factory overhead. So 195,500 subtracted by 108,500 mana siya ang the direct materials issued. And then so moving on to 2-6 letter C. Ano ba ni siya? DDI, sorry. Direct materials, So number 11, we are looking for the cost of materials used for the month. So first we had the beginning materials inventory plus purchases nila, which totaled to 221,250. So muna itong makuha is muna siya ang materials available for use. Then we subtracted it with the ending materials inventory, which is 16,250. So now we have the total materials used totaling to 225,000. So for number 12, we are looking for the work in process at November 30. So, malin siya. As you can see na, ang direct materials na siya 2.40 na price per unit. So, money siya, 5,000 times 2.40 equal to 12,000. So, for direct labor at 0.80 per unit, same value gap on 5,000 times 0.80, total to 4,000. And then the overhead, which is 100 per hour, muna siya, 80 times 100, 80,000. And total lang siya tanan, 24,000. So, by the way, ang 5,000, 5,080 are sa kanina problem, or makita ragid siya sa given. So for number 13, cost of goods sold, we used the the formula gihapon, same formula, and then marag na extend na siya gamay kay na siya gipangita lain. So total materials used, we have 225,000 added by the direct labor and then the overhead, which totaled 450,000 for the total manufacturing cost. And then we added a beginning work in process, 36,000, which give us the total work in process, which is 486,000 na siya. Then subtracted it with the ending work in process of 24,000, giving us a total value of 462,000 for the cost of goods manufactured. So for number 14, we're looking for the finished goods inventory. So, from what I could recall, kay Marag, narasad niya siya sa table sa letter D. So we simply added the direct materials, which is 12,500, direct labor of 7,500, and then the overhead, which is 100 per hour. Ano siya ang total, so 15,000, and then i-add lang sila tulo, giving us an ending finished goods inventory of 35,000. For the last number, we are looking for the November cost of goods sold. So we simply added the cost of goods manufactured, katong gi-solve na to kaganina, which is 462,000, plus the beginning finished goods inventory na 30,000, na makuha na to diha ang goods available for sale. We then subtracted it with the ending finished goods inventory of 35,000, giving us a total of 457,000 for the cost of goods sold. That's all, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Very good with the explanation. So that is an example class of cost flow analysis. So based on the problem, you could observe now that from direct materials, labor or payroll, and factory overhead or applied factory overhead, it will transfer to work in process. Then from work in process, it will transfer to finished goods. Then dinha lang. Okay. Next would be a comprehensive problem, which is exercise 2-4. I think this one has a volunteer. Chan. Is Chan around?
Yes, sir.
Kindly share your screen and discuss exercise 2-4.
Okay, so for exercise 2-4, we have 3 requirements. So ang first requirement nato is just to journalize the transactions that happened in April. The second requirement are T accounts for your materials, payroll, factory overhead control, WIP, and finished goods. And the third requirement is to find the cost of goods manufactured, cost of goods sold, and your net profit for the month. So let's go first. The first requirement, which is to journalize the transactions above. So let's not mind the information so like top, and we'll go to the part where it says the following information pertains to the April operations. So for letter A, materials acquired from the supplier amounted to 55,000 pesos. So to journalize that, we debit materials 55,000 and then we credit accounts payable 55,000. For letter B, materials requisition for production cost us 52,500 pesos. Of this amount, 6,000 were indirect materials, meaning na it's gonna go to our factory overhead control account, and the rest are distributed as follows: 13,250, 18,500, and 14,750 to job 1234, 1235, and 1236 respectively, all totaling to 46,500. Then we just credit our materials. For letter C, materials returned to the stockroom from the factory total to 1,500 pesos, where 500 pesos were indirect materials. So debit your materials kay gi-return mo, and then we credit WIP. We credit factory overhead control since 500 were indirect materials, and then the rest we put it work in process account. For letter D, materials returned to vendors total to 2,000 pesos. So we debit accounts payable for 2,000 pesos, then we credit our materials for 2,000 pesos. For letter E, payroll of 95,000 was accrued in April, so debit payroll, and then we credit accrued payroll. For letter F of the payroll, direct labor represented 55%, indirect labor represented 20%, sales salary represented 15%, and administrative salaries represented 10%. And then the direct labor cost was distributed as follows, as you can see in the book. So 52,000. So first we debit work in process. 52,250 came from the total of your 16,050 pesos. Or basically it came from your job 1234, 1235, and 1236. So this is the total. And then for our we debit factory overhead control, which amounts to 19,000. So 19,000, it says here na indirect labor is 20% of the payroll. So we had a payroll na a while ago na 95,000. So 95,000 times 20% is 19,000. So sales salaries expense was 15 is 15% of the payroll, so 15% times 95,000, and then your administrative expense is 10%, so 95,000 times 10%. Then we just credit payroll, which is the total of everything here, so debit side. So for letter G, factory overhead other than amount. So factory overhead other than any previously mentioned amounted to 23,511.25. So we debit factory overhead control. And then given naman sa problem on how they actually divided it. So it says here na 5,000 was allocated for accumulated depreciation. For your prepaid insurance, we have 625. And then for the rest, the remaining overhead, 17,886 were unpaid. So meaning we credit accounts payable. For letter H, factory overhead was applied to the production rate at 80% of direct labor cost. So direct labor cost us 95,000 if you remember earlier. Then we just multiply it by 80%. Oh, what? Wait. A joke. 80% charged to the 3 jobs in April. So we debit 41,800, and then for applied factory overhead 41,800. And then for letter I, jobs 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 5 were completed and transferred to finished goods warehouse. So this value here, the 133,560 is like the balance of your job 1, 2, 3, 4 and your job 1, 2, 3, 5. And then for letter J, both of these jobs were shipped and billed at a gross profit rate of 30% of the cost of goods sold. So we debit cost of goods sold 133,460 since we sold it na. So from the storage we sold it, so we debit cost of goods sold and then we credit finished goods inventory. And since we sold the goods at a gross profit rate of 30%, so we multiply our cost of goods sold, which is 133,460 pesos, by 1.3% or 130, 1.3 or 130%. Then we get 173,498, and we just credit sales for that. For letter K, it's just a collection of customers amounting to 1,073,000 pesos 125. So we debit cash since we collected cash, and then we credit your accounts receivable. So for the second requirement, we have your T accounts for the specific things, your materials, your payroll, your FOC, your WIP, and your finished goods. So first is your materials. So at the start, or like in the first paragraphs of the book, you can see now it says here that in April 1, 2020, your work in process had a beginning amount for materials of 35,000. So here. And then for transaction A, what happened? We acquired supplies, so we debit that. For transaction C, we returned materials to the stock room, so we also debit that. And then we credit transaction like 52,500 since we place those materials into production, as it says here, materials requisitioned for production cost. For letter D, we debit 2,000. We debited also 2,000 since we returned materials to the vendor, giving us an ending balance of 37,000. It's basically just that from the transactions that happened here. Alright, so for payroll, we just look at what happened in transaction E, which says na the payroll was accrued. So basically we debited payroll and then we also credited payroll, giving us a balance of 0. For our factory overhead control, this contains all our indirect costs. So we had a debit for those indirect costs in letter B. In transaction B, kaya it says here na 6,000 was for indirect materials, so we add that in our debit side. If we take a look at transaction F, we added 19,000 for the indirect labor costs. For letter G, we also debited 23,511.25 since it's also part of like your factory overhead control. And then we just credited 500 since we returned some of the materials. We returned indirect materials, giving us a balance ending of 48,011.25. And then for WIP, it's basically the same thing. So if we had on April 1, we had a beginning balance of 46,675, and then we just debited, like you can just revisit the journal entries you made earlier. So whatever you debit, you just put on our debit side. It's just like how the accounts work. Then we end up with a ending balance of 53,765. For our finished goods, it says here na on April 1, we had beginning balance of 37,500 for our finished goods. Then in transaction I, we added the cost of like the completion for job 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 5, which amounted us to 133,460 pesos. And then in transaction J, we credited it since gibaligya man nato, so the finished goods transferred to our cost of goods sold, giving us a ending balance of 37,500 pesos. Okay, so third requirement, we are tasked to get our cost of goods manufactured, our cost of goods sold, and our net profit for the month. Okay, so taas, right? Alright, so we start with our materials beginning. So our materials beginning is 35,000 pesos. Then we add our purchases, which amounted to 55,000 pesos. Then we subtract our purchase returns, which gives us 2,000. So purchases minus returns will give us 53,000 pesos. We add your material beginning and the purchases and the returns, we get the value for our materials available for use. We have to subtract our materials inventory ending, which we got earlier from our T accounts, which is 37,000. And then we also subtract the indirect materials use of 5,500, which gives us a value of 42,500 pesos. And if we subtract the total, your 42,500 from your materials available for use, we got our direct materials used, which gives us 45,500 pesos. After that, our next goal is to get your TMC. So you just add your direct labor cost and then your applied factory overhead, which gives us the value of 139,550. So now we add our work in process beginning, which is from the first paragraph where it says now 47,675. Once adding that, we get the cost of goods put into process, which amounts to 187,225 pesos. Then we subtract our whip end, which we got from our T accounts earlier, which amounts to 53,765, which gives us our cost of goods manufactured, which is 133,460 pesos. After getting our cost of goods manufactured, so to get our cost of goods sold, we have to add our finished goods inventory and subtract our finished goods ending. So our finished goods inventory beginning is 37,500, which give us a total goods available for sale valued at 170,960 pesos. Subtract our finished goods ending, which amounted to 37,500 pesos also, which gives us a cost of goods sold arriving at the value of 133,460 pesos. Oh, so to get our net income, we have to start first with our sales. So our sales, since we sold our cost, we sold the goods with a markup price of 130%. So wait, we had the gross profit rate of 30%. So 133,460 times 1.3 or 130%. So our sales or our revenue totaled to 173,498 pesos. Then we subtract our cost of goods sold, which is this 133,460. We got a gross profit of 40,038 pesos. Then we subtract our operating expenses, which are your marketing expenses, and then your administrative expenses, which were given in the transactions above also a while ago. So if you total your marketing and your administrative expenses, it totals to 23,750 pesos. So gross profit minus your OPEX will give us our net income before tax, which is 16,288 pesos.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chan. So I think kana lang na problems. Then I'll provide additional problems for you to exercise, for you to answer. I'll ask those answers by Monday. So I'll upload it by tonight or tomorrow morning. Okay? Okay. Okay, so I think that's the end of chapter 2. However, I'll have to ask the answers for the additional problems that I will assign to you. So with regards to job order costing. Next topic will be production losses in job order costing, which will be discussed this Monday. Kana lang Monday, mausa na nako. And Tuesday, we'll discuss activity-based costing. Kana lang. Was there a question?
Nancy.
Yes, Kasirat?
For chapter 3 exercises, sir, kay kuan ra kag assignment bago sa Canvas or sa face-to-face na namo i-pass, sir?
No, for chapter theory, I'll have to announce it in Canvas. However, wala pa mag-add ko og additional problems for chapter 2. Okay? Okay, for chapter 3, losses man yan.
So mag-add ra kanyo sa Canvas, sir, for chapter 2.
Yes,
Okay.
I'll upload exercises. Delete from the book. Delete sa book. New exercises. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any questions before I end?
Ay, to clarify lang, sir, chapter 1 rato tanan ang sa Canvas, sir, no?
Yes, chapter 1 pa. I'll make a link for chapter 2 later or tomorrow morning.
Thank you kayo, sir.
Alisa? Inky?
Sir, pa-clarify ang tako sir. Katong imong gi-mention gaya na nga long exam sir ini Friday. Unsay coverage sir chapter 1 and 2 ra gyapon?
Chapter 1, 2, 3. Then for the midterms, 1, 2, 3, and activity-based costing.
Okay sir, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, if there's none, let's call it a day, class. Happy weekend.
Thank you, Sir Dago.